Episode 57 of the Interpretation Station is called to order. Welcome everybody. Dobro došli svima. Well, episode for you today, especially for my Jedi-speaking followers. It's a statement we've got by the Speaker of the Serbian National Assembly, Ivica Dacic. We're going to do it a little bit differently today. I haven't put this statement up before on the group, so we're just going to look at the sort of, just go through the whole statement, doing a sort of site translation. I'm going to be showing, stuff for you to look out for, some different solutions for various things, and I hope that you'll pick up a couple of new tricks. So this was a statement actually that I found on the website, parliament.gov.rs. I'll share my screen with you so that you can see it there. And it's quite good actually, this I've discovered, because you have lots of, certainly Dacic's statements. You have the actual video recording, and then you also have the transcript. So it could be a very useful source for you if you're not already familiar with it. So this is a statement then that he delivered on the 29th of April. It was a statement given, well, as you can see, by the speaker. We call, predsjednik Narodne skupštine, we call this guy the speaker, at a public hearing on changes to the constitution in the judiciary, pravosuđe judiciary. All right, so we're going to have a look at it here. What I'm going to do, by the way, I'm going to take you through the text first of all, and at the end, I am going to then sort of give you how I would interpret this. Imagine if this was under conference interpreting conditions, and I'm going to go through it a bit quicker, just to give you the full sort of rendering to see, so you can see sort of what tactics I use. Because he goes quite fast in the original. You'll see if you watch the video, if you listen to the audio, he's generally a pretty good speaker, but it's quite quick. It's quite challenging. So anyway, let's see. So yeah, distinguished chair, members of the committee. Obviously, it's a committee, so it would tend to have a chair rather than a president. And, chair is a good, if you're not certain, sometimes you enter a meeting, you're not certain if the chair is a male or female. So if you just say chair, again, it sort of covers both bases. So it's a good sort of safe way to, you should know who the chair is, to be honest, generally in the meeting. But, I'm only human. Sometimes I'll enter a meeting and I won't know when someone's being addressed, are they male or female? Is the chair male or female? So if you just say chair, it's a good sort of neutral thing to say. I can't bring myself to say chairperson, I hate that word, chairperson. So I'd prefer just to say chair. So, okay, so distinguished chair, members of the committee, distinguished members of the committee, distinguished chair of the Constitutional Court judges, predsjednica vlade, Prime Minister, Your Excellencies, distinguished members of the judiciary. So on behalf of the National Assembly, I'd like to thank you for being with us today at this public hearing, which was convened by our Committee on Constitutional Issues and Legislation. So this just to say here, sazvo. So I usually, for sazvo, I go with like either was convened or summoned. You could just say or called or organized, but they don't sound that great. So good solutions there are convene, I'd say, is my favorite. Okay. Vaše učešće mi govori da ćemo imati veoma široku I kvalitetnu diskusiju. So your participation tells me that we're going to have a very broad and high quality discussion, which I'm sure will help us reach the best decisions when it comes to constitutional change. So just a couple of things here. So kvalitetna diskusija. So this goes back to something I was told when I first did my internship at the UN. Like in lots of other languages, you have this word like kvalitet, in Russian kvalitetna, kачественная, kvalitetna. In English, you should really say high quality rather than just quality. A quality discussion sounds a very sort of low register, but high quality discussion. You say, I'll tell you, when you use quality, you say, oh, that was a quality goal that Ronaldo scored. It's really quite low register when you just say that something is quality. So in a statement of this nature, you already want to say high quality. Ustavnim promjenama, okay, so I know this is plural, but really in English you can just say constitutional change. I don't think you have to render it as the plural in English. So as you know, so moving to the next paragraph, I'm an advocate of the broadest possible discussion or debate on constitutional change, since I think this is the only way to reach decisions which in the long term will ensure respect for democratic principles and greater legal certainty. Okay, zagovornik, so I like to go with advocate for that word. And then poštovanje demokratskih načela, respect for democratic principles, compliance with democratic principles. I think compliance with is a very good neutral solution. If you're not, there are certain nuances, when to use respect or honor, deliver on, that sometimes don't quite sound right in certain contexts, but with compliance with more or less fits into any context. Okay, još ubedljiviju pravnu sigurnost. I just said greater legal certainty. Maybe you can say more compelling legal certainty, if you like. Now you don't change the constitution every day. But not just my own understanding of legal order is that long-term constitutional, the dugotrajnost, the sustainability of constitutional provisions are a precondition for stability and the functionality of a legal system. Just a couple of points here. So pravni poredak, I was wondering here, if perhaps you could say rule of law. Okay, I know it's usually vladavina prave, but perhaps the rule of law might work here. Dugotrajnost, okay, I think that's some important word. Sustainability of constitutional odredbi. Provisions is your best word for odredba. I must say I did this myself as a sort of, I interpreted it originally myself, listening to, because I don't usually work that much from Serbian, I'd forgotten the odredba, provision, you need to know that word, provision. Okay. Kao garancija, where are we? So as a guarantee for full respect for civil and human freedoms, division of powers and other core principles of modern democracy. Okay, one thing. So podela vlasti, in English we talk about the division of the branches of power between the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. I think you could say the division of powers, though. Temeljni princip, also a good word here I like for temeljni is core, rather than saying fundamental, which is a bit of a mouthful. It's perfectly good, but core principles is a very good, quick sort of shortcut, a good solution. Savremene demokrati, you could say, I guess. Contemporary democracy as well, not just modern democracy, contemporary democracy. Today's public hearing launches a public debate, which I'm sure will yield useful suggestions and ideas from the broadest possible circle of stakeholders. Okay, so I'll just stop there. So a couple of interesting things here. So I like to nominalize things. If you've watched my other shows before, you'll know that I like to turn what's the first sort of noun that you hit into the subject of the sentence, regardless of what case it's in. So, okay, here, današnjim javnim slušanjem, okay, it's in the instrumental, okay, but often it's easier, as I say, to turn that into the noun. Your English will flow better if you just turn it into the subject and then you adjust the rest of the sentence as you go along. So if I turn that into the subject, it gives you this, today's public hearing, okay, pokrećemo javnu raspravu, launches. What does it do? It launches a public debate. And then od koje. So again, some of these connecting phrases, iz koja, od koja. Again, the safest thing to do in English is to just make them, put them into the nominative and then adjust. Which očekujemo, we expect, da dobijemo korisne sugestije. So what's that hearing going to do? So you receive the useful suggestions from the hearing. What does the hearing do? The hearing yields those suggestions to you. That's a very good verb to have. So that we trust will yield useful suggestions and ideas from the broadest possible circle of zainteresovanih strana, stakeholders. There's one other thing I want to just point out here. That's najšireg kruga. So he uses it on a number of occasions here, the superlative. And the superlative is a bit of a nuisance in English, isn't it? Because generally you have to say as big as possible. This would be najšireg, the broadest, as broad a circle as possible of interested of stakeholders as possible. It takes up quite a bit of time. So what I try and do is just say, you can either say as broad as possible a circle or the broadest possible circle. Get the possible out the way as soon as possible. Okay, if you see what I mean. There'll be another example of it later. People from the judiciary above all, but also from experts, academia, and all those who can contribute to reaching wise, sustainable changes. Okay, so universität, so academia, I think is the best way to go when they talk about, okay, the naučni krugovi, university. So you could just say from universities, but I think academia is a good solution. Prave promjene, prave održive promjene. I think with change, so for održive, lasting change is the best collocation. Prave promjene, I think judicious, wise decisions, judicious decisions is perhaps the best here. Because the right changes, I think the right changes doesn't sound right in English. The right decisions, that would sound good, but because it's prave promjene, then perhaps it's the right and change don't quite go together. So judicious, wise changes. So once those changes are effected, they're going to affect us all, and in the long term, and that's why I think it's necessary to approach them very seriously. Okay, so od trenutka kada, once, as soon as, you could also say. Promjene budu izvršene, so I've used quite a high register word there, effected. Okay, you could just say once those changes are made. That's a sort of a regular sort of solution. To effect change is a very high register solution. You can affect change, you can affect operations, for example. They'll affect us all in the long term. Okay, priđemo sa krajnjom ozbiljnošću. Okay, because you don't know, when he says priđemo, your sort of automatic reflex is to go with approach. So you need to approach them very seriously. If you can wait till the end of the sentence, then okay, priđemo sa krajnjom ozbiljnošću, I guess we have to treat them very seriously. So it just depends how many words behind you are, I guess. Now, given that there was some confusion in the media, I'll remind you that our goal is to change those conditions of those provisions of the Constitution concerning the judiciary. In other words, the form for selection of judiciary mandates. So there's a couple of interesting things here. Okay, u javnosti, I would tend to go with just in the media, in the public eye, in the media. Again here, so I'm turning pred nama zadatak. So our goal, so I'm turning the zadatak into like the subject of the sentence. So what is our goal is to change, rather than saying before us we have the goal, that just takes up too much time. Just say our goal is to change those provisions of the Constitution concerning the judiciary. Now this izbor pravosudnih funkcija, so I was thinking about this for a while. I mean, the selection of judicial functions, but I think what he's talking about really is mandates, judiciary mandates. I know that like in Jedi, obviously, the funkcija is used frequently to describe a position or a post. So I think the best solution here might be mandates. But if you think there's a better solution, then do put it in the comments. No other changes are envisaged. These changes will be approaching above all as towards our commitments, which stem from the EU integration process. But I would say that that's not our only motivation. So again, obaveza, best word I tend to find is commitment or obligation. Proističe is processa, you can say, which derive from, which stem from. Proces pristupanja, I think integration is probably the word you're wanting. Again, there may be in certain ministries, I guess, you have your own sort of naming conventions for certain things that maybe differ sometimes from what I give you. Again, those sort of local rules apply, but this is how I would do this. So what we need is our constitutional system to be such as to enable full protection and equality of citizens before the law. Moreover, a firm guarantee for these rights will be a new, more modern form of selecting judiciary mandate holders. So again, I've just gone for maximalnu zaštitu, just full protection, equality of citizens before the law, and then I've put here after pred zakon, I've sort of split the sentence up into two. Just started, moreover, a firm guarantee will be this new, more modern system of selecting nosilaca pravosudnih funkcija, again, the mandate holders. That's what a buzz phrase tends to be, mandate holders. In this phase of constitutional change, what's extremely important is the role of the Assembly. And in that regard, today's public hearing should be seen as ushering in a preparatory procedure, which we expect will crystallize decisions which will best further our constitutional system. Okay, now you'll have noticed here I just said in this phase, so I read ahead, and then usually I tell you, as I say, try and nominalize the first noun that you come across. And so you'll say, okay, Roland, you've got to nominalize that. How are you going to get out of that if you just start this phase of constitutional change? Okay, so obviously that it works 90% of the time if you nominalize. Sometimes when you nominalize, you have to sort of fix things a bit later on when your plans don't quite work out. So for example, if you start just this phase of constitutional change, okay, and then you suddenly hear this izuzetno bitno je uloga Narodne skupštine. You have to sort of just think on your feet, say something like this phase of constitutional change involves a very important role for the National Assembly, sees a very important role for the National Assembly. You have to sort of tweak it a bit like that. Doesn't sound great in English, sounds okay. So you can't get it perfect every time. But you could go back and just correct yourself. You could, you say, okay, this phase of constitutional change, or in this phase, what's exceptionally important is the role of the National Assembly. And also note how I've gone, izuzetno bitna je. You have to use that device. You have to throw in the what, okay, to make it flow nicely into English. Sometimes when you get hit with the adjective before the noun, you have to often use that what. So you can say what's exceptionally important, or if exceptionally important, maybe you can just say that in one word. What's vital, what's paramount is the role of the National Assembly. And okay, so here I use quite a sort of high register solution. Kao uvod u jednu pripremnu proceduru, I said, which will usher in a preparatory procedure. Again, if that, it's a good word to have. It's a good word to have in your arsenal to usher in a new period of prosperity, whatever. But again, if that doesn't come to mind immediately, you can just say as an introduction to a preparatory procedure. And then again, we run into this problem again, where you have the izkoje. Okay, so again, my inclination would be to turn that into the sort of nominative and say which we expect will crystallize decisions which will best improve our constitutional system. Another option might be just to stop the sentence after pripremnu proceduru and just say then we expect it to crystallize the decisions which will best enhance our constitutional system. So there's a couple of ways you can get around that. Then I would remind you that the whole process of constitutional change is very complex and very clearly stipulates a number of stages with the obligation that the session of Parliament, which initiates constitutional change should be the one to complete it also. Okay, so just a couple of things here. Propisuje nekoliko faza. Propisuje, I said stipulates. Provides for is a very good neutral solution again. Stipulates, it tends to be things, texts that stipulate, okay? Whereas provide for, a text can provide for something, a system can provide for something, a mechanism can provide for something. It gives you a bit more flexibility. Also, phase, I prefer stages to phases. Maybe it's just a personal thing, but I think stage sounds a little bit better in English than phase. Okay, obavezа, I've gone for obligation here. Okay, saziv parlamenta, so we would say a session, okay, a session of parliament. The session that initiates the change needs to complete it also. It's funny, in English, complete, when I'm interpreting into English, that's a word that seems to sort of fall by the wayside, complete, weirdly enough. You know, I suppose you could say, I often say maybe conclude generally, or end it, but really complete is it's funny. It's a word that you hear all the time, you know, on the news, wherever. But for some reason, it's just a word that never comes to mind just in the moment for me. Okay. And then, of course, this includes a referendum where citizens would vote on the proposed changes. I mean, izjasniti o nečemu. I mean, that's the easiest, most simple solution to go for, to vote. I mean, there are sort of more longer-winded ways of saying that, you know, they would express their position, but really just when it's coming to citizens taking a decision on something in this context, it's really to vote on. Okay, so our goal is through these public debates that we're beginning today, and there'll be more of them, is to achieve the greatest possible consent over future constitutional change, to make sure that those changes are effective, judicious, and long-lasting. Okay, so here with the ovim javnim raspravama, I've just turned it here into kept it in the instrumental through these debates, via these debates. And here again, što moguće veću saglasnost. So I've tried to get the possible out as fast as possible, just saying the greatest possible consent, as opposed to going with as great a consent as possible. I think it's just a bit more, it's just being a bit more economical to just get that possible out as soon as possible. And then again, I've pravične promen. I've gone again with judicious, wise again. Sound is a good word. Sound. That was the word I was looking for, actually. Those decisions, those changes should be, or decisions should be sound. Okay, for that, we need the cooperation of all of you, as well as your good intentions in swiftly and effectively delivering on a major commitment, above all to our citizens, to people in the judiciary, and to our European partners. So again here, this kvalitetno sometimes causes problems going into English because we don't have a sort of like-for-like solution for it. So on this occasion, you know, you could say in a high-quality manner, to pick up on what I was saying earlier about high quality, but that's such a mouthful. So I think here you're best off just turning it into like effectively. What did I say? For an obligation to deliver on our commitment, to make good our commitment for obavimo obavezu. I'm certain that we'll reach the right decisions, and to that end, I offer you the full cooperation of the National Assembly as the institution which has a key role in the process of constitutional change. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. I wish you all a good, fruitful discussion. And once again, thank you for responding to the invitation of our Committee for Constitutional Issues and Legislation. And I trust that we will be seeing each other soon at the upcoming public debates on this very important theme. And again, it's a fruitful discussion. It's always a good collocation to know. And notice how I said here, rather than going through, još jednom vam se zahvaljujem, što I'd like to thank you once again for, you can just say thank you again for doing this. You don't need to give the full I am very grateful to you. I would like to thank you. You can just say thank you again for responding to our invitation. Nadam said that ćemo se vidjeti. So I give you, I trust we'll see each other again. It's a sort of higher register to just say, you can say, I hope we'll see each other again. But I think the idea is more, I trust that we'll be seeing each other soon. Okay, so that's that. So now just to finish, I'm going to take you through a sort of quick rendering of how I would do this if it was under interpretation conditions, if I was the man on the mic in the booth. So this is what I would do. Distinguished Chair, members of the committee, distinguished President of the Constitutional Court judges, distinguished Prime Minister, Your Excellencies, distinguished judiciary representatives, on behalf of the National Assembly, I want to thank you for being here at today's public hearing, which was summoned by our Committee for Constitutional Issues and Legislation. Your participation tells me that we're going to have a very broad, high-quality discussion, which I'm sure will help us reach the best decisions when it comes to constitutional change. As you know, I'm an advocate of having a broad discussion on constitutional change, as I think this is the only way to reach decisions which, in the long term, will ensure compliance with democratic principles and greater legal certainty. You don't change the Constitution every day. My own, but not just my own, idea of law and order is that the sustainability of constitutional provisions are a precondition for stability and functionality of a legal system as a guarantee for full respect for civil and human freedoms, division of powers, and other core principles of contemporary democracy. Today's public hearing marks the start of a public debate that, we trust, will yield useful suggestions and ideas from a broad circle of stakeholders, from people in the judiciary above all, but also experts, academia, and all those who can contribute to reaching the right sustainable changes. Once those changes are effected, they're going to affect us all and in the long term. That's why it's necessary that we approach them very seriously. Since there's been some confusion in the press, I will repeat that our goal is to change those provisions of the Constitution concerning the judiciary, rather the selection of mandate holders in the judiciary. No other changes are envisaged. These changes will be approached above all as our commitments stemming from the EU integration process, but I also say that that's not the only motivation. What we need is our constitutional system to be such as to ensure full protection and equality of citizens before the law. Moreover, a firm guarantee for those rights will be a new, more modern form of selecting judiciary mandate holders. At this stage, what's vital is the role of the National Assembly. In that regard, today's public hearing should be seen as ushering in a preparatory procedure which we trust will crystallize decisions which will best enhance our constitutional system. I would reiterate that the whole process of constitutional change is very complex and that it very clearly provides for a number of stages with the obligation that the session of Parliament which initiates that constitutional change should be the one to complete it also. Of course, this would involve a referendum where citizens would vote on the proposed changes. Our goal through this public debate, which we're launching today, and there'll be more of them, is to reach, as far as possible, consent over future constitutional changes, so as to ensure that those changes are effective, judicious, but also sustainable. That's why we need the cooperation of you all, as well as your good intentions to swiftly and effectively carry out a major commitment, above all to our citizens, to the people in the judiciary, but also to our European partners. I am certain that we'll reach the right decisions, and to that end, I offer to you the full cooperation of the Assembly as an institution which has a key role to play in the process of constitutional change. I wish you all a good, fruitful discussion. Once again, thank you for responding to the invitation of our Committee for Constitutional Change and Legislation, and I trust that we'll be seeing you at the upcoming public debates on this very important theme. I thank you. So, okay, more or less that's how I would have done it. Maybe I made a couple of mistakes. I know there was a couple of things that I said in that rendition that went against what I was actually saying before in the tutorial, but it just shows you under pressure, you sometimes leap for things that you know aren't quite right. So it's interesting, I think, maybe for you to see, on the one hand, what I'm saying when I can assess a text slowly, and what I have to do when I'm reacting. Okay, so I hope that was useful for all you guys. If you enjoyed the episode, please do smash the thumbs up button, share it with any colleagues who you think might find it interesting, and I look forward to making more episodes for you very soon. So with that, all I have to say is that episode 57 of the Interpretation Station is adjourned.